So on page, I think 110 of your book, there's reference to a model called the 4C ERG model. Is anyone here using the 4C model to inform your ERGs? Okay, so the 4 C's is, it's useful for you to know about if you don't know about it, because it is a simple model. It anchors very nicely and mirrors very nicely most diversity and inclusion strategies, the components of relatively straightforward components of a diversity and inclusion strategy. So the 4 C's stand for, thank you, the 4 C's stand for community. These are going to be very familiar to you. Commerce, customer, and career. Is this familiar? So even if you don't use these exact 4 words for your ERG or for your D&I strategy, you probably have something, your overarching D&I strategy, that your ERGs should be anchored to, which makes them connected at the highest level of the organization and therefore kind of available to get resources and connected into the pipeline and visible. Then these 4, even if you don't use those exact same words, are very similar to the ways that most of us are structuring our D&I activities, and also the way that we structure a lot of our HR activities. And so it's useful for you as you think about your business plan to also think about, as we jump in to developing a business plan and thinking about kind of some of our short-term or long-term objectives and then goals and then strategies and then metrics, maybe what we do is create objectives, the highest level strategic what's that we want to pursue around these 4 areas, right? So we have a strategic objective around community. How is it that we are going to have impact on our community? Say we're Charlotte-based, right? Or say our particular local ERG is in Charlotte, and that's where we want to focus. Our commerce, how is it that we want to drive a product? How is it that we want to inform the rollout of a new commercial? Something along those lines. Customer, how is it that we want to, I'm sorry, it's not customer, it's culture. Culture. I'm sorry, I was standing and talking and writing at the same time. So culture is the third, and culture is really about the organizational culture and creating a culture where people can be fully engaged and do their best work and feel valued and respected and have access to resources, etc. And then career. And career is really focused more on the professional development aspect. And it includes things like recruitment and retention and all the succession planning in between. And so think about using some kind of a simple framework that allows you to anchor up to your overarching D&I strategies and some of the overarching kind of infrastructure, that already strategic infrastructure that exists in your organization. The other good thing about this particular model is that it's a database with over 200 companies that have already used this model with over 400 ERGs. So each company has, X number of ERGs, and then each of the ERGs uses this in order to create a benchmark, in order to create a picture of where we are today. Then they can benchmark on a yearly basis, on an annual basis, and say, how are we making progress along the metrics that we've established for ourselves? How do we compare those across ERGs, but also how do we compare those across companies and across industries? So the really good thing about it is that it allows you to position yourself and your ERGs for influence. There's a lot of organizations that are still having kind of volunteer contribution to leadership roles in ERGs. Do any of you have a volunteer model? And then folks say to me, well, wait a minute, how do we get past that? If we really value ERGs, we really value them as business-centric, how do we make the case for them not being a volunteer, extra kind of leadership role? Well, data. If we can say, hey, our competitors have been able, I learned this over lunch, our competitors were able to describe and identify that they made $200 million because of their D&I commitment, and they've been able to quantify that. Then if we start collecting data where we can make the bottom dollar case for the value add of ERGs because we are able to benchmark against other companies or against other industries, then it also allows us to be able to think about resources and positioning and influence over time. So I really encourage you to, as you think about preparing business plans, set yourself up for success. Set yourself up for creating kind of infrastructures that allow you to measure in ways that are compelling, short-term, long-term, and outside of your organization. And again, thinking about what would allow you to be influential in the future, as well as really setting kind of a clear infrastructure for your business, for your ERG to become business-centric. And that's it for us. We are officially told to stop. Thank you so much for this afternoon.